So we start down this back alley. People from the shadows are talking to us and whatever. And then we went into this, I think it was a Paris Club or one of them, just dark. Nothing but a string of lights. And I go, no, we're not even close. They would not do this to me. So, of course, we get up almost to the street. And, of course, then the guy wants to sell me some drugs.
It's a $20 landing fee to get in there. And all the beer you can drink between 3 and 5, and it's just it's a great tradition.
Oh, is it just beer?
No.
Oh, I screwed up last time.
No, I'm not a beer drinker either.
You can get your you put your $20 in, you can get the
To Murdoch.
yeah
To
to Murdoch.
Murdoch.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a guy.
Cheers, fellas.
Yeah.
And in
God rest
July,
his soul.
we're going to have a good time in July. The Friday is like the day before he passed, I believe. And we're going to fill that thing with food and get a fire going out here and have a good time.
And that was the enlisted club. So then we went to the officers club, and of course he had to tear up a handicap sign out of the ground, the enlisted club, and he took it with us, and so he could put it in front of the officers club because he said, "This is where that sign belongs."
One of the most unusual things that ever happened to me was we were in Qatar for a couple of days waiting to catch our hop over to Balad. And so we're staying in these tents, and they're bunk beds. And Mike Casanova is on my top bunk, and I'm on the bottom bunk. Well, we're in our beds yakking away. Pretty soon, this big rat comes scooting underneath me, and we both kind of, hollered a little bit. It took off, and it was looking for a way out of the tent. Well, at the tent opening was this big, they used to have these shell no-fly pest strips, so they had a big circular one at the door. It caught itself on that strip. And we paid no more attention. We figured, well, that's the end of him. So we go to Balad, do our thing, come back to Qatar. We're in the same tent, and there's that rat still hanging from that no-pest strip. Only it had disintegrated a little bit. I mean, mostly, just the bones of it, I guess.
Hello, this is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And today I've got two good friends, Jim Prostrollo and Ed Revell. They worked at the South Dakota Air National Guard and retired from there. So we're going to find out how they got into the military, and before that, even where they grew up, whatever they want to say about family and all that. And we're going to work into the military careers, and we're just going to go from there, fellas. Yeah. So whoever wants to go ahead and start, just where did you grow up, and we'll go from there.
Howard goes before Sioux Falls.
Okay. Well, I entered the Air Force accidentally in 1976. I had recently graduated from high school, and I was looking for some direction in my life. So I thought, I'm going to go in the Army. My dad was a World War II veteran. I had 3 brothers drafted in the Vietnam War. So I figured the Army is what I need. And I was looking for some college money too. So I went to Sioux Falls, which I wasn't real familiar with. I found the MEPS station, went upstairs, thought I went into the Army recruiting office, but I made the wrong turn and went into the Air Force office and sat there and talked to them. And I still wasn't real sure what I was doing. And I thought this was all Army talk until they started using words like AFSC instead of MOS and those sort of things. So I like what they had to sell, and I thought this Army thing is a lot better than I ever thought. Well, it turned out after I took the ASVAB test and did very well, they said, we can give you a guaranteed job. And then I was really confused. I thought I had to go to the Army and learn how to shoot a gun and be a grunt and all those things. Well, it wasn't that way at all. And then so I left 2 days later. That was a Wednesday when I went into the recruiting office. Thursday was Thanksgiving, and I left Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's quick.
Yeah, it was quick. And it worked out best for me because I was kind of dumb anyway at the time. I still am. But at that time, I was really confused. And so even when I wrote my first letter home, I put Fort Lackland because I thought I was in the Army.
Right.
It was just a real confusing thing to me. Well, my dad was really pleased that he had it figured out that I was in the Air Force. And he was very intrigued by that because everybody else was Army, including him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that worked. And then I didn't know there was such a thing as the Air Guard. And I probably wouldn't be interested in that anyway because I wanted to get out of town and get to see some things.
So you grew up in Howard then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I grew up in Howard, home of great baseball teams. And I was a part of that, lucky for them. And, Howard, it's like Kevin Bacon. You're 6 degrees of separation from anybody. Ed and I run into more people that know somebody from Howard, or do you know so-and-so? And I usually do, and we have a lot of connections that way. Well, and it's a town when I was growing up, it had 5 bars. It was a town of 1,200 people and 5 bars. It pretty much led the league in per capita drinking, which we were, pretty proud of that, I guess.
Sounds like where I'm from in Wisconsin.
Did a lot of drinking.
2 blocks and 3 bars.
Yeah. So after high school, joined the Air Force. Had a lot of fun there. I got out and I missed it. So I thought, I want to go back in the Air Force. Well, 2 things.
I'm going to back you up here a little bit. How long did you stay in there? What job did you have, and where did you get stationed?
I stayed in for 4 years.
4.
Mm-hmm. It was a 6-year commitment, 4 years active duty. I did that. I was stationed down in Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. I was an admin type guy, so I was with the 8th Fighter Squadron down there and got exposed to the T-38 and the F-15 and got to know pilots and crew chiefs and that kind of thing. Although I was an admin guy, I was pretty much an ops guy in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I got orders to go up to F.E. Warren, Wyoming, F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming. And they didn't even have a live runway. It was a missile base. It was a SAC base compared to the TAC base I was in. So all of a sudden now my shoes matter, my haircut matters, all those sort of things matter that didn't matter before. And it was all missiles, and I was an admin guy there. And what I did was I produced reports for the folks that go out and do inspections on these missile silos. It was pretty interesting, but when you're up in Wyoming, that was my first exposure to cowboys, really. I mean, because they had Frontier Day rodeo, big rodeo. I learned what a redneck was. I didn't know what that was. Well, even to back up a bit, when I was in New Mexico, like I said, I never went to Sioux Falls very often, so I had never had Mexican food before until I got down there. And then, my first introduction to Mexican food was authentic. So when I got up to Wyoming, it just wasn't working, because I really fell in love with Mexican food. But up there, it's mostly meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went from ops to, when I got to Wyoming, I ended up in a missile squadron. So, I mean, it was night and day to me. And I really had a good time. And they offered me a reenlistment and for some reason, I thought I could do better on the outside. And when I got to the outside, it just wasn't as much fun as I had in the Air Force. And I gotten to the point where I was even a supervisor, which was really cool. I got to push people around it, but I was a type of supervisor. I didn't have to write the APRs, which is the Airman Performance Reports and things like that.
Were you like a buck sergeant by the time you got out?
Well,
Back when they still existed?
Yep. I had a line for staff. I'd made below the zone for senior airmen, and that pushed me up to having a line for staff, but I was getting out. So, in fact, I would have sold on staff, but I took terminal leave. I left 2 months early. Still on the payroll, but just left a couple months early. And so I wanted to get back in the Air Force, and I would have, if they would have taken me, it would have been a buck sergeant. But what happened, I couldn't pass a physical. I kept having kidney stones.
Oh, my God.
And that was a showstopper. And then I learned about the Air Guard. I thought, well, God, maybe I can get in the Air Guard.
How did you hear?
That's a funny story. and God rest his soul, Arnie Jansen. I came to Sioux Falls, and I went to 7-Eleven on Marion and 41st Street to get some cigarettes. Well, as I walked in, this guy was walking out, and he had a windbreaker on with an A7 on the back. And we exchanged pleasantries. Hi, how you doing? So on and so forth. Very friendly guy. I said, what is that on the back of your shirt? He said, it's an A7. We have a squadron of them up north. I said, up north where? Here in Sioux Falls. I said, well, what are you talking about? Well, I didn't know South Dakota had an Air Guard, and I didn't know it was an award-winning Air Guard besides. So he said, what you need to do is go up there and talk to a recruiter and see if you can get in. So I did, and I ran into Toby Fladmark, and he was my recruiter. But like I said, it took me a couple years to finally quit passing stones to get in. Mm-hmm. So for 2 years, what I did was I went down to school off the GI Bill down to Vermilion. And then coming home one night, I had a great big kidney stone, and I was on the interstate, and I just about crashed my car.
I was going to say, if you've had multiples,
yeah, I've had
able to keep doing that, you're one tough SOB.
I've had, I think, 12 now.
Oh my God!
And I am counting them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how I got into the Air Guard. And then right away, when I got in the Air Guard, they gave me what they called, and I never heard of this before, man days, as opposed to active duty days. They had these man days, and they brought me on a temporary AGR tour. And from there, I went to my tour ended, so I wanted to get on full time. And then they had the technician program, which was really new to me. And so I went from working with Lee Peterson in the bunch to finance. I was over in finance with Ron Pittenger and Kurt Ponch and some other well-known people.
Approximately what year was that? I think that's before my time.
Yeah, I think this is 83 is when this is happening. I got out of the Air Force in 80, so it took me a while to pass a physical to get into the Air Guard. Mm-hmm. So that's my break in service. It's not very long, but I did have some because I couldn't get in. Then when I got in, I had another kidney stone. Well, the flight surgeon at the time was a guy by the name of Doc Lowe's. His son was in the unit. And he got wind that I was having these kidney stones, so they called me back for a impromptu urine and blood test, and came out pretty poor. So they were going to discharge me. Oh, no. Yeah, so my Air Guard career almost came to a screeching halt, via the kidney stone program. But man, those things hurt. But
I couldn't imagine.
But for some reason, Lee Peterson, and he got a hold of a guy named Phil Killey, and they decided that they were going to overrule Doc Lowe's opinion, his medical evaluation board. He did it himself, and they decided that they were going to keep me because I worked pretty closely with Pete and Phil Killey and these type of fellows. I was shocked, because Phil Killey was the base commander and he wasn't Sir, he was Filbert.
Yeah. Rest his soul too.
Yeah, rest his soul
We were
too.
just talking about some guys that have passed.
Yeah.
Right.
So him and Dan Hacking and Lee Peterson, they're all gone now. They took care of me and made sure I got to stay in. And I never passed another stone until just this last January. So it'd been a long time.
After you retired.
And that's okay.
A while after, absolutely.
Well, they're never okay, but
And just to fill you in, it is May in southeastern South Dakota right now, and it is 90 degrees outside of here. So I got a fan here I'm going to turn on. We might be able to hear it in the mics, but we don't care.
yeah, well, that's fine. I mean,
It's a little warm. But then, then we're going to get into your starting point
okay.
here.
Well,
Get this baby.
oh,
Ooh, yeah.
ooh,
Feel that?
oh, that feels good.
That feels good. Yeah. Feels a lot better than a kidney stone.
There you go. That'll be a little warmer.
Yeah,
Or
I had 12 of those
cooler.
things. And I had 8 until this January, and then I decided now's as good a time as any to have some kidney stone problems, and ended up in the VA hospital. And boy, am I an advocate for that place. It's changed. The service was great. The food was identifiable. It was all just other than passing the stones. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I've often bragged about our VA and even the admin side. When I had to first go in and do some kind of paperwork early on, they had boxes in the corner in the office I was in. I was like, "What's that?" And they're like, "This is us helping out other states to get caught up on their claims."
Yep.
That's how good they are. So, and the medical stuff as well. So,
And then, a bunch of the people from the Air Guard went to the VA
yeah,
full time. So it was kind of the Air Guard South for a while there, which is fine because they were all good people and had the opportunity to move on and move up.
Well, after I'd retired from the Air Guard, I got a contract job at the VA, and knowing the politics now, I'm glad I was a contractor, not a VA employee. But I'd counted up 36 Air Guard people, mostly traditional, but had full-time employment out there.
yeah.
I mean, a lot
I
of
think
people.
Dewey and Visual Information went out there a couple years ago. I don't know if they still call it Visual Information, but yeah, I saw him out there just a year ago.
I'm from the day when it was Photo Lab.
Photo
And Ron
Lab,
Roos.
Ron Roos, yep. I think they had like 3 different AFSCs in there back then. So Ed, how about your beginning story?
Well, way back when, graduated from high school, had to go to a year of college because that's the rules of the house. I couldn't buy a car. So, of course, I enrolled in Brookings and went there for a year, did a little ROTC, so on and so forth. My brother graduated from the School of Mines, ROTC, so he went in the Army. So he got stationed in Karlsruhe, Germany. So that summer after my first year of college, after I had a car, which was a 1971 Gremlin.
So that was a house rule?
That was the house rule. So, brother, everybody, you had to get a year of college, then you get a car. So, they were ugly cars in the day, but it's the only thing I could afford. So, you could buy one of them for $1,999. So
There you go.
I got one.
Attaboy.
Went to work for my dad because I worked for him off and on at Gardner's Nursery, Gardner Feed and Seed. Been around there forever. And they went and seen my brother in Germany, came back, and, I was out of money. I didn't want to go to school. And Dad said, well, yeah, you should probably try one more year. So I went for about 2 or 3 weeks and I dropped out. So, of course, then I went back to work for Dad. A bunch of us used to frequent the cantina in the Western Mall where Sioux Falls learned about Chislik. And, of course, they had cold beer, so we used to gather there quite often. The draft was still going on. Number was 79. We weren't too worried about it. They weren't getting that close, but there was a half a dozen of us that decided that maybe we should try something different. Well, one of the guys went out and checked out the Air Guard, and back in the day, there was always a waiting list to get in. So when he goes out and checked with a guy named Del Hamilton, which a lot of you probably don't remember, but he's the one that ended up doing all the paperwork for us. But so, yeah, what the heck? Let's give her a whirl. So we went to MEPS. We did all the ASFAB. We did everything. And, of course, the guy that had the idea, his name was Randy Horn, he flunked the physical, so he couldn't go. So the other 5 of us, well, whatever. I mean, some of us had dropped out. Some of us had been forced out because they didn't, went to school to drink and eat and not study. So, the old rules were you have to sit out a semester if that's all you're going to do. So anyway, we proceeded on, signed the papers. Okay, we're going to send you down after Christmas. And then after we signed the papers, they called up and said, well, hey, we got some openings before Christmas, so you're going to go to Lackland Air Force Base, Texas, week before Christmas. So, of course, we had to hurry up and have a party and so on and so forth. And then, of course, everybody got to kind of choose what field they wanted to go into. And people were choosing services and supply and admin and come to me and ask me what I want to do. And so I like to be outside. I always worked with my hands, landscaping, just love the outdoors. Well, you should become a crew chief. Well, okay, whatever, And went to lovely Air Force Base Lackland in San Antonio for 6 weeks is all. Came back at the end of January because I got into the on-the-job training program. So that was not bad. I mean, 6 weeks of basic training. Yeah, there's a lot of games, haircuts, all the other stuff. But, after you get through that, I didn't have to go to tech school, so I could go right back into civilian life and as I found out, the relaxed military life. So anyway, hooked up with the crew chiefs and what do they call it back then, OMS or anyway. Hooked up with a bunch of them. Dean Axtell was the chief, and hooked up with a bunch of really good guys. Had some really, really good mentors. Clyde Rabb, Johnny Raymond, just to name a few. Connie Baker. There's just a lot of people that influenced my life and led me down the right path. Of course, I was just a traditional then.
Now, I said this to other people now. Don't use that word "just" in front of that.
Well,
just
at that time,
we know what you mean.
I was a part-time military, member, and I was, in the Army they call them M days. I guess we call them part-timers or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah.
The traditional word come up. So anyway, I went back to work for my dad, and then he passed away in '76. So I kept the business going for a couple more years, and then actually applied for a job at the Air Guard. And back in the day when Justy Berger was the commander, and he had us sit at the, not the round table, but the big table in the corner office to get an interview. And this is 1978. Got hired in the phase docks, but hadn't quite got the business sold yet, and there was a few other irons in the fire. So anyway, make a long story short, I ended up turning the job down and did a few other things. And then come that fall, I wished I would have took the job, but there was a hiring freeze, so that didn't happen. But Dean Axtell, a few other people came up with some man days. So I got to always be part of the Guard, do extra time, got to know everybody. Mm-hmm. So in 1981, when the hiring freeze was off, there was a job open in the phase docks again. Well, I was on the flight line, but phase docks, perfect. Get to know a lot about the airplane, get to meet a whole other bunch of people. So I got hired in March of '81 in the phase docks and loved it. Worked with Bob Gunderson, Neil Aker, Ron Jacobs, Orv Groneveld. Gail Westberg was the commander of maintenance, DCM. Just a great bunch of people. And then, of course, we were right next to the flight line, so, no problem. Go down there, see your old buddies, and still got to deploy with the flight line, become a crew chief, and just loved it. totally enjoyed my 5 years in the Phase Ducks. Learned a lot about the A7. And so in 1986, I got a job. I got a chance to get a job as a crew chief. And so I got hired by, I think it was Condi Baker at the time. Anyway, Buck Lane could be, they were both flight chiefs for me. Oh, Clinton Burt. No, Clinton Burt was the one that I got to work with B Flight. But then later on, I became a member of A Flight. Mm-hmm. So I did that for 9 years. And then I got a chance to get a supervisory job in the accessory element in the back shops. Which, and of course, back then, the back shops always, were hard on the crew chiefs because the crew chiefs were a bunch of whiners, always got the whatever, I mean, it was fine. It was good camaraderie, good bantering, so on and so forth. So, yeah, being around Sioux Falls my whole life, born, raised there, family business there, perfect. So now I'm in the Air Guard, got the supervisor job, and then I got to learn more about how things work and how the more maintenance on the airplane, and then of course got to be a supervisor and got to learn about HR, paperwork, APRs, your all that other stuff. But yeah, it was good. Did
So
that.
growing up in Sioux Falls, you were aware of the Air Guard from the beginning, or was it later in life?
1971, I knew about it, but then when that guy came around and said we ought to join it, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
The draft, we weren't going to get drafted, but then, of course, there's always the next year.
Right.
So we could have, but it was really, we just needed something to do. And it was a wise choice. I loved it. I had a little bit of an inkling because my dad was in the service. My brother was obviously in the service in the Army. He was an engineer. So, yeah, let's just give it a whirl. So it was fine. And then I, got to stay around home. But then, of course, with the Air Guard, you travel. Mm-hmm. So got to meet a lot of really neat people, work with a lot of really neat people, see a lot of things. It was fine. So,
Yeah, I traveled more in the Air Guard than I ever did in the Air Force. It was just backwards. I thought I'd be more at home, but do a lot of traveling.
so
Do either of you remember back in the day, like air shows? Were they doing air shows back then?
well, 1986, Phil Kelly made the first air show at the Air Guard,
That was the first one.
as far as I
Okay.
can remember.
All right. I showed up there fall of '89 as a part-timer.
Yeah, because see, that was our 40th anniversary.
There's our 40th.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Kelly wanted to make it better. So, I mean, he had pyrotechnics. He had everything. He met with the city forefathers and said, there's going to be a lot of people there. And they go, whatever. What's an air show? Well, of course, we pulled it off. It was fantastic. It was really good. But they figured when they took aerial photos, there was 100,000 people either on base or in the area.
Yep.
A few vendors, but not much, because it was at the infant stages. But it was pretty awesome. I mean, he put on a good show, and I can always remember his words of wisdom after it was over with, and we were cleaning everything up, and then a storm moved in. He's standing on the flight line, looking everything over, and he goes, well, thank goodness we can get out of the air show mode and get into the war show mode, because the next year was an ORI.
Yeah.
So, of course, little beknownst to him, that's, what was that? That's, I think, when Brian Beatty actually took over commander because they made him tag. So then we went to Volk Field and had our ORI. Of course, Kelly always wanted the big O. This means you're okay, plus we want to be outstanding.
Yep.
Well, of course, we didn't get one under his command, but under Brian Beatty, we
did.
got one. So that was fine. But so, I mean, I went through several commanders, several supervisors or whatever, but the outstanding individual that probably had the biggest impact on me was Tom Lean.
Yeah,
You
ditto.
know, TJ.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
General Lean, but to everybody it was Tom Lean, TJ. What a great commander. I mean, you always knew where you stood with that guy.
For sure.
And he ran a tight ship. So, yeah. You know, Kelly was there, Brian Beatty was there, Little Ole, which is before your time, Coach. And then, you know, he went through Colonel Doohan, Wally. And then after Wally, sorry, but the rest of them don't count. Because, you know, Air Force guys, and it was just the changing of the guard. I mean, after Wally left, it was just different.
Yeah, I remember Colonel Lean at the time was the OG when I got hired
Yeah.
full-time, November of 92.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, I remember, Mary and I had bought this acreage, and then 2 months later, my child support doubled from a previous marriage and one child. And I'm like, I was doing some math. You know, it wasn't much money back then. I was like, Mary, every month we're going to be $50 in the red. We'll see how long we can do this. 2 months or 3 months later, got hired at the Air Guard, got a $4.30 raise. But when Colonel Lean called me in the office, first things out of his mouth was, well, Jimbo, I'm sorry, this is an entry-level job and the pay's not that great. And I was like, I'll stop you right there, sir. You just saved me $4.30 hour raise. I said, you can track my whole career. I will never complain about my wages out here. And I always made sure that I stood by that. He doesn't know that, but
Well.
that was a big impact on me. But what a great guy.
Well.
Absolutely great guy.
We all did. I mean, it was a fun job. It was a good job, you know, and we had our business to do, you know, but they did provide you with a livable wage, and then when you got to travel and double dip and
Well, they were some of the best jobs in Sioux Falls, and a lot of people didn't know about the Air Guard, other than the air shows would put us on the map. But otherwise, they were great jobs, and they had great benefits. And you're right, Tom Lean, wow. If you had a question and you needed an answer, and you went to him, you got the right answer, and there was no doubt in your military mind that it was correct and it was executable. And
That's a key right there.
he had your back.
yep.
He had your back.
Whenever I think of him separately, and when I think of you separately, I always think of one of my favorite phrases was at the Christmas parties. And I don't know if you ran this past them ahead of time or not, but they had the door prizes and stuff. But you had to be there. And not just be there, you had to not be in the pisser or anywhere else. So what was the award that
If you weren't there, if your name got drawn, you got the Tom Lean Tough Shit Award. And that's what he said, because he was in the back, and he said, well, what do you want to do, sir? Tough shit, they ain't here? Not a problem.
So that's how that started. He was in
Yeah,
the back
that's
of
how
the-
that all started. So when Tom Lean
TJTS.
retired and R.J. Clift retired, of course, you know, R.J.'s famous phrase was fighter pilot extraordinaire.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a banner made for him. You know, congratulations, General Lean and General Clift, you know, but then in the parentheses it was founder of the TLTS award, and then of course RJ's was the fighter pilot extraordinaire, you know, and then of course the replacement was Holman and Doohan. So yeah, they just got a congratulations, but the other guys got a pretty good send off, and they loved the banner so much that I had to have a couple more made so they can hang them in their garage.
Nice.
But you talk about two individuals that were
Well, RJ, when he
Yeah,
was a
great
general,
people.
and we were in the middle of back then they were called MEIs, management effectiveness inspections, and I had an inspector right up my butt, and things were pretty tense, pretty nervous. RJ comes in, JP, how's it going? I go, oh, it's going good, sir. You know, because you don't call him sir, but when you're in front of inspectors, you
Yep,
do.
you do whatever.
And then he said, listen, you know me better than that. I'm RJ Cliff, fighter pilot extraordinaire. And this inspector, he didn't know what to think, you know, because he was active Air Force all the way. He had never been introduced to it. This is his first guard inspection, and he was kind of overwhelmed by the acumen of a general, and he wasn't just a general. The guy was a fantastic human being.
Yeah, he was one of the way ups in Northwest Airlines, if I remember right
Yep.
back then, and everybody loved him. I've had a few people, mention that he should be sitting here behind a mic sometime. That'd be
that would
kind of
be
interesting.
very entertaining.
Yeah,
Very entertaining.
Yep.
But like Jim said, you couldn't count on a better guy to have your back. You couldn't count on have a better person to work with. Just an all-around great guy. I mean, we had a lot of those people, but, RJ and TJ stick out.
Well,
you
in
can
my
just name a
job
bunch of
as an HR, you're bound to piss off some people and step on some toes. And when that happened, they'd come and try to take it on me, and I would direct them right to Tom Lean's office, so they could get, a final review on what's really going on here. And because I knew once I directed somebody to Tom Lean, I was going to be okay.
Yep.
But it didn't seem that way when I was in the middle of the crossfire. But Tom Lean, had my back.
I think when I came in, you were just taking over HR. Maybe was it Barb? Was she training you at that?
Yeah.
Did she have like a 3-week crossover with you or something?
Yeah. Tom Lean and I both started our jobs at the same time. He started as a commander, and I started as HR. So we had an agreement. I would keep him out of jail, and he'd have my back.
There you go.
And there's another outstanding individual was Barb
Entringer.
Entringer, that when we were coming up, and if you needed anything, what a sweet lady.
Didn't have an enemy.
She always took care of you.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, she was great.
So you mentioned travel, but it was more so in the Guard.
Yeah.
Did you do any traveling in active duty at all?
No, the only traveling I did was some TDYs. Like they would send me up to Lowry Air Force Base in Denver. I'd go up there to help them a little bit because they were behind on everything at Lowry because it was a training base. So they weren't as together as an Air Force base like Holloman or Warren or any of these bases I had been assigned to. So I spent a lot of time there, but I didn't do any deployments or anything until I got to the Air Guard, and then got to the Air Guard, and I've seen the world. Just amazing.
Were you able to go on the Belgium trip?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that, but after so many years of being in HR, you get burned out. So I went over to kind of the Army side and did, what do they call that?
Counter drug.
Yeah, counter drug. Did that for a while. And then that came to an end. So I ended up in maintenance.
When you did counter drug, I got to interrupt you. Did you do like Sturgis surveillance and any of that kind of stuff?
We did some interdiction, but mostly it was going into all the schools, and it was like a DARE program, only you interacted with the kids. And it was mostly juniors and seniors, and it was a blast. I was with a guy named Corey
Knight.
Corey Knight. He's got a broadcasting voice like you cannot believe. And
Old coach.
oh yeah.
If I remember right, he was an outstanding wrestler at Beersford
Yep.
down here.
And at Augie.
Saw him
Yep.
wrestle, and then Augie.
And at
Yes,
Augie.
he was.
And he was all conference linebacker at Augie. Guy was just tough, and that was my mentor there. And he taught me how to prepare a classroom, how to teach in a classroom, and how to get these kids' attention and to keep it. And I can still do that today. You wouldn't think so by looking at me, but
Jeez.
I had some talent there working with those type of guys. But that all ended. The funding was running out, and my patience was running out, and so I ended up as a unit deployment manager in maintenance, and I got to see some deployments
Lots of travel with that position.
Lots of trouble. Yeah, I was just a picture on the refrigerator for my kid. That's because I was never home.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you got to a deployment, you'd maybe get a few days off, and then next thing you know, you're having to plan the return because there's so much work with that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not ahead of it, you're behind it. That's all there is to
Yeah,
it.
and then they came up with those AEFs.
Yep.
So then you were gone for a while.
Yeah.
Not just a 2 or 3 weeker. You were gone for
Oh, you're gone for months.
a month or
Yeah,
two.
there was times where we had a 30-day, but we'd do a 2-week swap out, or a 90-day with a 45-day swap out, and then next thing you know,
It's
they're
4 months.
90 days, no swaps. Now we're moved up to the 6-month
Yeah.
mark. Pretty.
And of
pretty
course,
easy.
all the terminology has changed now too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You couldn't stay with one AEF or whatever. Now it's MIG-V and I don't know. They got so many different acronyms. It's okay, but don't have to worry about it anymore. It's fine.
I tell you, one of the most interesting deployments I ever had was the first time we went to Iraq, and the Omni airline plane showed up. A great big 757 or 767, whatever, great big plane. And these motorcycle guys lined up with their motorcycles and their flags on both sides of us, made a cordon, and we had to march through the cordon of motorcycles. And as we walked through it, they would salute us. Then we got we got onto the airplane, and we were looking around, and everybody's just quiet, and your hair's still standing up on your arms. And finally, who was it? It was Mike Casanova. He said, "Did anybody here notice that we have nothing to say? That it just took our breath away. It was the coolest thing ever, I thought." And but I was hoping when we came home that they weren't going to be there, because once you get off the plane, you want to get to your family.
Right.
You don't want to be going through a cordon to stall things any longer than you had to. But that was quite an experience. Really, really thought a lot about that. That's when I knew I was in the right organization.
Very cool.
Yep.
You guys ready for a short little break?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have more booze?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I guess break's over.
Copy.
That's
my
I
new.
hadn't had apple before. This is better than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's good. That's good for you.
So what else you need to know?
Well,
Any highlights, trips, whatever?
yeah. We're back from the short break here, and the theme that I was getting to with both you guys was the people. And most people that retire from out there say they're going to miss the people. And there's certain ones that go to the retirees coffee that we have once a month, first Tuesday at the Alliance. I really like that place, but I love going there and just seeing the people there. The people that you meet there are like family. And, my wife has questioned me, sometimes in the past, is like, because generally on the outside, you don't normally, really hang out with the people that you work with. It's like a separate life. But with the Air Guard and the military in general, it's really not that way. And you get to know some people, and I just love the relationships that I've seen other people form.
And like you said, it's times changed. It's not as family orientated as it used to be, but it's still there. And there's a lot of guys and gals where the kids have joined the Air Guard, so the nepotism, has actually kind of saved them with the recruiting and stuff, because there's a lot of moms, dads, and kids and cousins and uncles and stuff out there, which is good, because that just gives you that bond, and then,
Right.
you get to know people, and then they know people, and luckily, we had a lot of people from the surrounding towns that were members of the Air Guard too.
Right.
So we got to travel to, Centerville and Beersford and Humboldt, and to where they lived, and do stuff with them, and it was just neat.
Right. Probably shortly after I came out of Colonel Lean's office, when he was talking about the pay wage and stuff. I think it was that day or maybe the next day, get in the shop there, and Sorney looks at me and says, Now, careful what you say about people because you have no idea who's related to who out here. And I thought that was, besides not talking bad about people, it's also great advice just to be careful. You got to know your audience.
You know, the old air guard days, if I told you something right away in the morning, told you to keep it a secret, but everybody's got to tell one person.
Yep.
Because they just can't hold on to it. So you'd tell somebody in confidence or whatever, or sometimes just to check it out, you'd tell them something and say, now don't tell anybody. And this is like a 7:15 meeting, so to speak. Well, by the time noon rolled around, pretty much the whole base knew because everybody had to tell somebody about what was going on. So,
A different version of it, too.
yeah, different version. I mean, and they all switched. So it was always neat to hear what the original statement was or whatever, and then to hear what you heard about noon.
It's kind of like playing that game of whisper table or whatever when you got first one says, and what comes out the end? Nowhere close.
And then by the time you got to the club, it was a whole different story. But it was just fun. You know? So like you said, though, you learned what to say and what not to say. So, and that's true anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you just have to kind of watch what's going on because, as the famous quote is, be careful of the toes you step on today because they might be connected to the ass you got to kiss tomorrow. So, words of advice.
I wasn't sure which way that ending was going to go. You could probably put about two or three in there.
That's the clean version, so to speak.
Yeah, you mentioned deployments, and you'd mentioned you went to that first Iraq one in Balad. That one was nuts.
Yeah.
Did you go on any of the next two, or was this the first one?
I went on that one, but previous to that, I'd been to Kuwait two or three times. I'm trying to, once you get away from it, your mind kind of flows away from it too.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But Kuwait was interesting. And I really enjoyed that because the one time I went as a first sergeant, which was really out of my element. But we got there and we landed and got off the plane, and there was ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, all these cables are on the flight line. We're tripping over them because this was Southern Watch, and we were to protect the southern border. Well, hostilities had fired up, and it just happened to be our turn in the bucket. So all the news organizations were there, up and including the Air Force Times. They were there, and they did a feature with Mark Gerber, and he was on the cover of the Air Force Times.
Really?
Yeah, and there's two of our jet, the tail numbers in the background there. It was. And plus, when you watch CNN, because back then it was a real news channel, and they were covering the war and all the skirmishes, and you could see our tail numbers flying around, and their camera shots. It was interesting.
Ed, what's the most surprising thing that you saw or witnessed overseas?
Well, when we got deployed to Saudi Arabia for Southern Watch, of course, they put us in a compound, and you can't go anywhere, and that was different. That was kind of the first time that I'd ever been deployed, and you couldn't go out and, check out things outside the base, and
that was my least favorite.
Yeah, local economy type thing, and it was different, and it was. We were in there with a bunch of other countries and stuff too, and because everybody's in the same compound. But it was, that was the only time that, you kind of felt like you were closed in. I mean, you couldn't do anything but go to work, come back, go to the chow hall, walk around the perimeter, and that's it.
Yeah, a little bit of a drive there.
Yeah.
I remember Colonel Walls at the time.
Yeah.
I think that time I didn't go advon, but I came main body. But I remember the in brief, and he goes through all this stuff, and then he says, "Okay, on your free time," he goes, "don't sit on the couch and read a magazine and watch a movie." He said, "Read a magazine, and later watch a movie. Don't do any double tasks at all because you're going to need every bit of
Energy
that you need.
You know, because I went to, Turkey a couple times for Northern Watch, but you're on Interlink. You can still go down to the alley, and then a bunch of our people obviously were stationed at Interlink too, and that was the probably the biggest surprise that I got. Not terrible or anything, but we were in Turkey in '93, and it was the first rainbow deployment.
Yeah, I remember
Sioux
that.
City, Virginia, Denver, and us. Okay, so there's, we got 12 jets over there. We got a ton of people. We're working days, nights, whatever. But we're getting the job done, and I get a phone call. Well, it turns out Lewis Winter was his name, and he was in finance. So I get the phone call, and I go, I don't know anybody by that name. I don't know. So I just kind of blew it off. But a few days later, get another phone call. So, of course, then I call him back. So then I go over to finance. I think that's where he was working at the time. And I meet him. And he was, turns out he was the son-in-law to Jim Black, who was a part-timer in the hydraulic shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he had talked to his father-in-law and said, well, I heard, Ed Revell's over there. And Fast Eddie was my nickname, as most people know. But he said, you need to hook up with him. So we did. Nice conversation, and it's about the week before Christmas, and we're just not doing a whole lot. And Lisa Eisenhower, Bob Fodnas, a few of us, we kind of hung out. And so Lewis invited us over for Christmas dinner. So I think his wife's name was Lisa. Very nice young couple. So we go over to their station on base, got a nice little, what do you call them? TLPs, temporary living, TLFs. Whatever.
PLFs.
So we got invited over there. So of course we brought refreshments and some food and some music, and we had a very nice Christmas dinner. Just surprised, and then of course when we're snooping around, well, they'd already been to the BX and bought dishes and whatever because they didn't have a clue, but we just had a super good time. So then we got together with them later, and we took them out for a traditional Turkish meal and stuff, which was fine. And then a few years later, because he ended up in Omaha, next thing you know, he's Palace of Chases to the Air Guard.
Really?
And then he's over in finance, so of course we hook up with him again, just see him on drill and stuff like that. Well, by this time he's got 3 or 4 kids or whatever, and then doggone it if the guy didn't end up making chief.
Yep.
And
That's cool.
it was just awesome, just out of the blue, and meet him over there, and then he comes a part of our unit, and then he becomes a, chief in our unit. So that was pretty cool.
Incirlik was one of my favorite places to go, and I don't know if you can see it over your left shoulder underneath that Copenhagen sticker. What do you see there in the middle of that mirror?
Yeah, the wagon wheel.
The wagon wheel, best little honky tonk in Turkey.
Yeah. Did JK ever mention that? That's
I don't think he did.
That's where he was trying to tell people there is pool etiquette, You need to follow that stuff. JK. So we always started kidding him about that because JK was a wonderful guy. He just had certain things about him. He just had a...
That was a Navy thing.
Yeah, just smile and laugh and go, and it was fun.
Yeah, that was the first time there. It was still in like an old Quonset type hut, and that was really fun. I mean, the music was great, the camaraderie was great. Most of us lived in tents over there. We shopped at the BX, cooked outside. I met some just lifelong friends from St. Louis F-15 unit.
Yep.
That were there. Lifelong friends. Some of them have been on these mics already and stuff. I drove down to St. Louis and saw a bunch of them
Tent
and
City
stuff.
was awesome.
It
You had
was.
all the special forces and civil engineering and the Brits and the
Coalition Village.
Coalition Village. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Remember Russ Larson walking around one night. It was pretty late at night, but he had been celebrating, I don't remember if it was a special anniversary or something with, because he had some kids in the military. I think maybe something went on really cool with the kid in the military or whatever. But I remember being up pretty late there and just standing out there in the middle of the dirt, just talking to Russ and just having a great old time up there. It was an amazing trip. Now the second one, the wagon wheel, was in one of the hard billets, one of the.
Oh, so it did actually move out of
it did, but it was not the same. It was not even close to being the same. You could go there, listen to country music and dance and have some drinks, but it was not like the old
not
Quonset.
the original one. No.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
No,
so what's something that surprised you the most overseas seeing?
One of the most unusual things that ever happened to me was we were in Qatar for a couple of days waiting to catch our hop over to Balad. And so we're staying in these tents, and they're bunk beds. And Mike Casanova is on my top bunk, and I'm on the bottom bunk. Well, we're in our beds yakking away. Pretty soon, this big rat comes scooting underneath me, and we both kind of hollered a little bit. It took off, and it was looking for a way out of the tent. Well, at the tent opening was this big, they used to have these shell no-fly pest strips. So they had a big circular one at the door. It caught itself on that strip. And we paid no more attention. We figured, well, that's the end of him. So we go to Balad, do our thing, come back to Qatar. We're in the same tent, and there's that rat still hanging from that no-pest strip. Only it had disintegrated a little bit. I mean, mostly, just the bones of it, I guess.
Man,
carcass, yeah. So that was one of my big surprises. But you talk about these coalition villages, and you get to meet some people from other countries. And Casanova and I, and a lot of my stories start with Casanova and I. And we would go to the dining facility, and he would purposely, especially for breakfast, make those Muslims give him bacon, although he didn't like bacon, but he knew they couldn't stand to touch pork. So he'd have his plate filled up with bacon, with no intention on eating it. Just, things like that.
Now, here's my biggest surprise. Somebody doesn't like bacon?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Well,
you can only like so much of it. I mean,
what do we always call it? Third country nationals.
Yeah, third country nationals, yeah.
Whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Casanova's one that got me started on deer hunting. He gave me a spot over here at Newton Hill State Park and gave me a stand that's just up in the rafters over there and everything. And
he's a great guy.
Mike's a great guy.
Yep.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you the other surprise was in 1987, snowbird deployment, Tucson, Arizona. Met my wife, Vonnie, in a hot tub in Tucson, Arizona at the Santa Rita Motel.
Really?
Yeah. So unbeknownst to me that would be more than just because I always had fun on deployments, had a few beers, took care of a lot of people, had a lot of fun. But that particular one, then I had a lot of fun.
Yep.
And it turned out, and been married since 1989, and found myself one of the happiest hooligans in the area.
There you go.
And it was just fine. So
well, to piggyback on your question on biggest surprises on deployments was, and I didn't realize how naive I was, but I was on a 1985 deployment to Howard Air Force Base, Panama, and that was not only seeing the jungles and the live interaction with the Army, the Rangers, the tough guys, but the other business that went on the side was just a shock to me, and I did recover, but that's where I got to meet. That's where I met RJ and Lean and Denny Clausen, who I thought was a national. He had the same color as the Panamanians. he could almost speak their language. And
King of Toboga.
King of Toboga, yeah.
How about Ray Roundhorse?
Oh, yeah, what a guy.
Yeah.
He was a squadron commander when I came in. I heard that he was Vietnam pilot, and he loved wrestling. So there was wrestling matches with young enlisted guys. I don't remember if it was Panama or it was. I came in just after the Panama thing, kind of deal. But yeah, what a great guy there too. When we're talking about them.
Yeah.
He was smart. He was a smart man.
My good memory of him, besides him just being a good old guy, is we used to go to Boise with the A7s, and then we'd fly with the RF4s out there, and go out for a week and do some DACT, blah blah blah, whatever. And so of course Ray's with us, so we hook up with him one night at the club, so we had a few beers. So then we went to and that was the enlisted club. So then we went to the officers club, and of course he had to tear up a handicap sign out of the ground, the enlisted club, and he took it with us, and so he could put it in front of the officers club, because he said, this is where that sign belongs, because he had about 3 sheets of the wind. But went in there and met a very nice colonel, can't remember his name, but had a few drinks and stuff, and before we know it, he lined us up with a ride in an M1 tank.
Really?
And this is back when they were, still first coming out, whatever. So the next morning we get up and we meet, and of course we meet this guy and take us out to this multi-million-dollar M1 tank, and of course we had to jump start it, but and it gets 4 gallons per mile. But so there was like 3 of us, probably 3, 4, whatever. So we get in there, and of course the thing will go 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And the turret goes like so. Well, of course, Ray got to put the helmet on, the goggles, so he's up in the turret, go, let's move it, and it just, oh God, we had so much laughing, and he was totally into it.
Yep.
Because that was, he was going, but what a super nice guy.
Great man.
You definitely want him on your side. I know he was a good pilot, but just like to have fun.
He's the one that actually did roll call in the morning of Saturday and Sunday guard drill. And I had no idea. I was coming from SAC headquarters off it. Yeah. That's where I was for 2 years, 4 months. But what a great guy.
Yeah, what a great guy. Fun-loving guy. There's another one. You knew he had your back. Do anything for the guy.
And you respected him because he was talented. He was just a A1 guy.
Yep. And that was the difference, between active duty and us too. I mean, we always gave the pilots the best quality, the best readiness for the aircraft, because, obviously we wanted them to come back and wanted the takeoffs and landings to equal each other, but we always made sure that they had the best product that we could produce. And a lot of them, would come out, make their walk around. Sometimes if they're running late, they go, we're good to go, Chief? Yep, go for it. They just hop in and go. And it was just the trust between the maintenance people and the pilots. And just everything was just tremendous, because you worked with them day in, day out.
You got that friendly banter back and forth, like the ops thing. I said I loved it.
You got to do
and
that
with the pilots, I have heard from many pilots, and some of them behind these mics as well, just talking about our maintenance in particular. The whole base has earned some great awards that other units will never even catch up on. But a lot of talk about the maintenance itself on the jets and just the cleanliness kind of thing. I got a friend named Pup. You might be watching this sometimes. Most time he does. But I remember Terre Haute had a jet over here, and I never laughed so hard. This was when life support was still on the planes, putting the parachutes in and stuff. And I looked over and I saw this jet had a Terre Haute tail on it, and they had to clean it. And our guys were great at washing jets, and with some dirty stuff came in, especially active duty. But they had masked off the radome, and it looked like some tiger that had teeth. So then they cleaned it all and then took that tape off of there. Oh. It had just a heck of a cool design on there and stuff. And I don't know if Pup ever saw that thing or not, but yeah, that was some fun stuff. But it just goes along with the way you take care of the
nose
jets.
art and
Yep.
Everything. And then we'd always put stickers on in the landing gear and stuff. I mean, everybody was pretty proud of their airplanes, and our unit was one of the best because all the times we deployed and stuff, ours 99% of the time were the best looking jets.
Yep.
And we had the best in commission rate because that's the way we did things.
The data backed it up.
And Air Force guys could just never quite figure that out. In fact, I don't know how many we mentored and trained and then actually, got to know and partied with and hopefully a bunch of them Palace chased and got in the Air Guard and do it because continue your career and it's you're still in the military, you're still doing everything you need to do, but
Well, they'd freak out when they saw staffs, techs, let alone masters out there kicking tires.
Yeah. Turning
or
wrenches, kicking
like
tires.
when we
even
accepted
seniors.
airplanes, we got pilots that needed something to do, so we got light colonels and majors out there screwing in leading edge flaps and just for
Sure.
something to do and to talk to us.
Yeah. Well, life's about relationships for sure, and that builds it.
It is, and one thing I enjoyed about maintenance, I always had maintenance in my heart. I just don't have the mechanical skill, but they would let me do. In a few deployments, I got to do last chance, and I thought these poor pilots, they're depending on me to tell them that there's no oil leaks, these tires are pristine, and you're ready to go. And I thought that's a lot of trust.
And you did it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but did
Give it a
it.
thumbs up.
What's one of the more challenging situations you've had in your military career?
In my military career, the most challenging, I would say, I used to be the superintendent of Airman Leadership School, and that's where Eddie and I got a pretty good relationship going. But it was down in Omaha, and we incorporated Fort Dodge, Sioux City, Lincoln, and Denver, and we combined and we made up the Midwest version of ALS. And I was the superintendent, so I had to make sure we had the right faculty in place, and because you got to certify these young airmen, and they're very impressionable, which really made me nervous. I thought, oh my God, what if they act like me? Poor things. But
Whatever.
yeah, that was a challenge trying to put that all together. But what was really fantastic about it was I'd give Eddie a call and say, hey, can you come down? I need some help. I need some influence. I need a chief down here. And whether it was a weekend or not or whatever, he'd be there. Well, one of the things I did with the class was I always had a saying. I said to myself, self, and then I would complete the sentence. Well, I taught the class that. So Tom Lean came down. He always supported me. He came down, him and a few other commanders come down on the C-26, I think it was.
Yep.
They'd come down for the graduation, and then I'd get up there and I'd say, class, I want to introduce my commander to you, Colonel Tom Lean. I said, and as you know, I was saying to myself, and they all responded, self. Tom says, you've ruined them. But that was probably my biggest challenge, because I had a lot of responsibility, whether I wanted that or not. I stepped up to it because you had to have a degree. They preferred a 4-year, 2-year would work. I had my bachelor's, so because these I call them kids, when they get done with this class, they're certified by somebody that's got the background in order to do that.
Right.
And you got people from all different walks of life, and you got to bring them together as a team, and because there was marching and all kinds of non-military or military things that I have no clue. I'm not a marcher. I have no military discipline whatsoever. My shoes, luckily they had started manufacturing patent leather at that time because there was no way my shoes would meet standards.
Shine like that.
Yeah, but that was a big one, and that's where Eddie and I really hooked up. Was some of those things, and then plus having to entertain, the chairman of the board, Tom Lean, and some of the other commanders, because people had, if they had if somebody in their unit was a student, they'd come down and support them for graduations, and
Which is awesome. And then now today, people go down for basic training graduation, tech school graduation. It's just, I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Because when I got in, of course, families didn't do that.
same thing here.
Because you probably couldn't afford it then anyway. But, it's, okay, you're in the military. We'll just wait till you come home after 6 months or whatever. But now they get the families involved. And then, of course, if they recognize you and there's protocol and stuff, and it's fine, but it's just the families are involved, which is great. And love to see that. And it's good for the kids. It's good for the kids, too, to have their folks that are supporting them and
Getting the support.
unit commanders. I mean, it's...
Because you find out one thing
awesome.
about the military, you're all in the same boat. You're someplace you don't really want to be, and you want to be somewhere else. And pretty soon you figure that out amongst all your other new peers, your new best friends. And going back and talking about my most challenging time, between the ALS and basic training, the hardest part about basic training was we got there on a Friday and I had met two of my new best friends. Well, Sunday we got all new haircuts and I didn't recognize them anymore.
Exactly.
Been there, done that.
What do you mean you got a cowlick there? You're not John. Yeah, I am.
And everybody's rubbing their head back and forth, only about a quarter inch, just feeling it slop back and forth.
And ain't much there.
And you had to pay $1 to make that happen. Besides, part of the harassment was paying for your haircut.
Yep.
Yeah, that to me was kind of funny. I was a little bit stressed because I clinged on to a couple of guys and I lost them. Because they're all wearing these pickle uniforms and no name tapes yet. And
Yep. Now we talk about the family thing. We had the retirees coffee once a month, but then we have the thing once a week, the safety meeting every Friday, 3 to 5. And I didn't know that you two were such good friends until attending some of those. And I don't attend as many as I would like to. Life's kind of busy, but I'm trying to get to a few more of them. Actually, we're going to do one here next July for Murdoch's tribute, who started the safety meetings on Friday.
Yeah, because he loved doing it. And then somebody had to kind of pick it up after had to kind of release the reins. And this young fella right here picked it up. And
done a great job.
And then they recruited a wingman, and we had a lot of fun with the site surveys.
Site surveys is the Thursday before.
Yeah.
I did
like
one
that.
of those when we did the first Tom Erickson one in Beersford. Because we set this stuff up and let people. So Scooby was there. Me and Scooby. I can't remember if there was somebody more there on that one.
Oh, there was both of them were very well attended and showed Linda a lot of support because Tom was just a nice guy. He was.
She needs to know that
Tom
she's still family.
But she's still family, and I think we did 2 of them, right?
We did.
Yeah, and
Did another one.
And plan on another one. But the way it started for me was Murdoch Lee Bendinger was he was the guy in charge. I won't use the other adverbs you use, but he was the guy in charge. And then he came really ill. And one day he called me up, and he was at the VA. And he said, "Did I catch you napping?" "No." "Can you come up here and see me for a second?" I said, "Sure." I went up there, and he announced to me that they had just put him in hospice.
Oh, my word.
And but he wanted his safety meetings to continue. And would I mind doing that, since I seem to have, I knew people on both sides of Algonquin, the admin side and the maintenance side. And Murdoch knew that. And so I agreed to do such. And so we sat there on his deathbed, and he gave me all these phone numbers. And so I'd be able to send out text messages to about 100 people. And then I came up with a great idea of putting it on Facebook, because a lot of people use Facebook, and it's really taken off. We've gone from maybe 8 to 10 people to the Tom Erickson one in Beersford. We had 34. So
Yeah.
I mean, they caught on. People like getting together on Friday afternoons to tell lies. That's what I call it. You know? No, I mean they like to swap stories and get together, and it's just a nice, very casual get together. People that haven't seen each other, and so now we got some permanent fixtures there, and it's our $20 landing fee to get in there, and all the beer you can drink between 3 and 5, and it's just it's a great tradition.
Oh, is it just beer?
No.
Oh, I screwed up last time.
No, I'm not a beer drinker
No,
either.
you can get your, you put your $20 in, you can get the,
To Murdoch.
to
Murdoch.
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 Yeah.
What a guy.
Cheers, fellas.
Yeah.
And in
God rest
July,
his soul.
we're going to have a good time in July. The Friday is like the day before he passed, I believe. And we're going to fill that thing with food and get a fire going out here and have a good time.
Yeah, we sat there at his hospital bed, putting all those notes together and everything. And I wanted to make sure he knew he had my undivided attention to do this, because this was something he started, and it was part of his tradition. And
Yeah. Just impromptu, and it was like a handful of people, and then it grew.
it just grew. Yeah.
And what a thing to take care of on your deathbed.
Yeah.
That just speaks to his class.
He loved life. He loved to party, but his old body just gave out.
Well, we were sitting there, and the nurse came in and wanted to know if he wanted anything, and him and I are both sitting there bawling our eyes out. And she was going to come to one of our safety meetings.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we better give her the invite. I don't know
Yeah.
if we could find her again.
Yeah, I don't remember who it is now, because we were both in kind of a wreck position
And
at
that
that
was,
time.
when I went to see him a couple times too, and Neil Aker was up there for a while too before he passed. I mean, can't say enough about the VA. Mm-hmm. Everybody's nice, and I go a couple times a year, and everybody is just so nice.
Well,
and the
and now
facility is great.
they have that hospice cottage now.
Yeah, now they got
Yeah,
that.
brand new.
And that's where Skinner ended up at. And he loved it. And for him to proclaim something like that speaks volumes for what kind of a situation that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We always, at these safety meetings, we just like at the coffees, we announce the latest passing, and then we propose a toast,
Yep.
to the latest person that passed, knowing that you're all going to end up being on that toast one of these days.
And we read the whole list every May meeting.
Yeah,
I missed the last one. I don't like to miss that meeting, but I wasn't in the area. But I just think that is so
Yeah.
cool.
And Abe, when he took over for DK, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, he took over for Portis. Bob Portis.
Bob Portis.
Bob Portis.
Okay, DK Bob Portis, and then
Yep.
he's doing a good job.
Yeah, you're doing a great
Doing
job.
a good job because DK had a
Oh,
lot of fun doing it, and DK, he was just
Dwayne
fun-loving
Kohler.
guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there's another guy, you wanted him in your corner because he knew a lot of stuff. He knew what's going on, but he made it fun.
Yep.
And DK was one of us ops.
Yes, he was, but he
One of
was-
the best.
But he was very personable, and
Uh-huh.
treated everybody that he met. It was good, So because that would be the, when you say most challenging
Yeah.
in your career, it was just. I'd have to say it when I became a supervisor.
I'm going to stop you for a second because I'm going to tie something together here.
All
I
right,
was going to
okay.
ask you because they might be related. How did you get the term Fast Eddie tied to you?
Oh.
And is it tied to your most challenging situation? Maybe it's not.
Not really, because
Okay.
there again, we're in Tucson, Arizona, snowbird deployment, and in my previous life before I met Vonnie, I didn't do a whole lot, but when I got on deployments, I did. I had fun.
Yep.
And so we were in Tucson one time, and 130 pulls up and drops the old tail, and and I'm getting out of the airplane because I'm looking for a van. I'm looking for transportation because I know we got to go get some refreshments and whatever. Well, there's another guy in that same 130, and his nickname was Animal.
Oh,
Jerry Johnson. So nickname was Animal.
nice.
So he's sitting in there with Buck and Condy Baker and probably Clyde Rabb and the normal bunch of people. And then of course I'm darting back and forth, trying to figure out what to get this, and so I zip by the 130, in about a full gallop because I've got keys.
Yep.
So I'm going to go get a vehicle, and he goes, "Well, there goes Fast Eddie."
Oh,
And it stuck. So everybody after that picked me up with Fast Eddie. So,
but you had your priorities right.
yep. And so then over the years, I found out that there's other Fast Eddies in other units. So when other people would travel, deploy, then they'd come back with a picture. Well, here's another Fast Eddie that we just met. And then when my brother lives in Austin, Texas, so then there was a Fast Eddie's pool hall. So I mean, it's a name that's been around, and there was a pool, so.
Well, my niece lives in Wisconsin. There's a Fast Eddie's restaurant, bar, grill there, and she sends me pictures. She's never met Fast Eddie, but she knows the term, and she knows, that there's one that exists in my world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a
It
a cool thing.
Animal gave it out. It kind of stuck, and it was okay with me. So we just kind of went with it, and now at 73 years old, not quite as fast as I used to be, but I can still get the job done if I have to.
Fast enough.
But it was just one of them things. It's just
Well,
like
and you can
his
give
nickname
direction.
was Animal. Lee Benninger's was Murdoch. Buck was Buck. Because George Ugly Dammer gave him that name because he was a buck sergeant.
Yep.
And
Well, when you got a nickname out the Air Guard, it stuck. I mean, it was just
It
a
stuck,
permanent thing, and hopefully it was a badge of honor. And
Exactly.
more times than not, it was.
Well,
so-
Buck and Murdoch were the first two that I asked to do this, but I hadn't done any yet. Nobody knew what it was going to be like,
Yeah.
anything like that. Of course, we had some reservations and stuff. And then a little bit later, Buck contacted me at the end of a safety meeting, by the way. And he came over and talked, but Murdoch had already passed at that point. And Buck just had a great interview here, learned a lot of stuff about him. But that's the one thing he said. He says, "Man, I wish we'd have done done
'cause
this
that
with Murdoch."
would have been an interesting interview.
Yeah. Yep.
Because he always liked to call it like he's seen it, and he was just a fun-loving guy.
Right next to my couch in my brand new remodeled first floor of our house is the memoirs of Buck Lean.
Oh,
A binder about like that. I've already read it, gone through it, but I've missed the last couple meetings to hand it back to him. And he says, nobody else is breaking down the doors to get this thing. But that was really cool. I don't know if anybody else out there has done that, but it was just amazing going through that binder. And I kind of had a divider line of before I was in the unit. Of course, he was Vietnam vet, of course,
right.
so ways back. But then when he got to the unit stuff, the line of before I was there and after I was there, it was a lot of fun reading that thing.
Yeah, because there's another guy you could count on, did his job to perfection, liked to have fun,
it was a class act.
always made sure everybody got taken care of.
He's a
Like most of us did, because that was probably our one of the best sayings that I used to be on a Daihatsu in the flight line. Mission always, or mission first, people always.
Yep.
So in other words, and that's my whole career too. I always tried to take care of the people,
Yep.
because if you take care of the people, the mission takes care of itself.
Well, you even did a lot of cooking, even
Well,
a lot of kitchen
either that
stuff,
or,
just making sure everybody raved about your food.
Well, I usually recruited some really good people that
Yep.
knew how to cook. So I'd get the supplies, and we'd figure it out, and we'd get her done. And
So is that one of your most challenging? I doubt it.
well,
But what
that-
was your
that
most challenging
that was
situation?
a fun thing,
Yeah.
but it was just getting people to do it. Because you always got a little backlash, whatever. But if you get a few people to do it, and then of course you'd treat them right, make sure they were taken care of, and then but you were doing it, for the masses. You were doing it for the unit. It was not a problem. So it just kind of was one of those things. We just did it.
And they end up having fun.
Yeah, and it was
with
fun.
each other.
It was fun. And but probably the most challenging thing I would think was when I became a supervisor, because then I actually really, no kidding, had to take care of people and then mentor people. And then that's when I kind of put it on myself to, well, in order to get all this stuff to happen, Family Day, air shows, all this other stuff, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to go, mingle with CE. You need to go to the Palace. You need to go to the Comflight. I was a volunteer fireman for a while too, so I got to know the civil engineers and all this other stuff. And then, so I got put in charge of some special projects to get done, for the commanders and whatever. So I got to know a lot of people, and it really paid dividends because, you walk into somebody's office and, you're who from whatever, and you're from maintenance, by whatever. Well, now wait a minute, we got something to do, so, I need something, so you need something in return, or if you can help me, how can I help you?
Relationships.
And then sometimes you'd have to listen to a little song and dance, whatever. But it just really opened my eyes because within a few short years, I knew people from one end of the base to the other.
Right.
And I knew who to call, and they did too.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you come up with these meetings and stuff, and you need people. Well, we can probably figure something out, And I really thoroughly enjoyed it because some people, they're in their little work zone, and that's all they do.
Right.
So if you're in supply, that's it. You're in the fire department, that's it. You're in CE, that's it. Well, no, we're one unit. And then as we got to deploy, and taking other people with us too, that's where you really got to know people. Because then everybody's in the same spot for 2 weeks to 2 months, whatever, and you work with everybody day in and day out. So that was a pretty good challenge. I think I accomplished that. And then in March of 2003, Colonel Doohan was the base commander. I put in for the wing command chief job. So he selected me. I don't know why, but he did, which was fine. But, he wanted to kind of bring back the good old days and to just kind of have fun and stuff like that. Well, we tried.
Yep.
It didn't quite work. But that was another eye-opener, too, to kind of see things from, both sides of the fence and whatever, and got to travel, got to meet some very interesting people.
Because they didn't have the senior enlisted leader back then, did they?
Well, they did, because
SEA.
the one was the state command chief, and then the one was the wing.
Well, they had the senior enlisted advisor.
Because that's a separate position now.
Well, it was dedicated to itself at the time. Like Jerry Snyder was the SEA.
Okay.
But just one.
But you just had one SEA.
Right.
Yep.
Was it? Oh, did that become a full-time position?
Well, it wasn't really supposed to be, but
At the beginning, right?
Dean Hilberg figured out a way to make the wing command chief a full-time position. But some other units did the senior,
Yeah, because the senior
state
enlisted
command chief.
advisor, Jim Welch,
Yeah.
I believe, was a
Right.
full-time
Well,
SEL, but we still had the
But he
command
was
chiefs
part-time in the unit, and then he got a 4-year position in Joint Force
on
Headquarters.
orders and stuff.
And he was an old Army guy, too, so
Okay.
he kind of blended right in. And
Okay. Yeah, Jim Welch has been here plenty of time for wild game feeds
picked
and
up,
stuff.
4 years active duty towards the end of his career, and
Yep.
that was a good thing. And I always got along good with Jim.
Oh, yeah,
and
me too.
Mary. His wife's name's Mary, so
Yep.
we had a
Another
lot of
Jim and
good-
Mary.
Yep.
good times together there too. And there again, another guy that I would have known from Adam until you kind of get to know people.
Yeah.
And then you get to work with people.
Well, your answer kind of tied in most challenging and most rewarding, which was my next question.
Well,
so
that was probably dual
pretty
whammy
close.
there.
Okay. How about your most rewarding, then, Jim?
The most rewarding was when I was in HR and we had to do some staffing to, especially crew chief positions. There was always so many people applying to be a crew chief that I had to put together a panel, a board, in order to eliminate. If you have 20 people applying, you can't. To me, it didn't seem fair to have to interview all 20, even though it's a pain in the ass to fill out one of those federal employment applications there, the OPM one, I think it's called, or SF one. But to save time, to be efficient, I put together a panel, and 10 times out of 10, it worked. I mean, they would select the top 4 people, 5 people, never more than 5 to interview, and it always seemed to work. And that was so satisfying to me because I was hurting the feelings of 15, 20 other people. But they knew that they were getting beat out by some quality people. And they weren't selected by me. I got to put the blame on the panel that I selected. So
a little anonymity works.
Yeah. But that system worked. I mean, it worked well. Yeah, so that was one of my most rewarding, is putting together those panels, because you got to pick the right people for that.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Which one? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and the thing about my job was I got to be best friends with everybody on base. I mean, the maintenance guys, I got to know those shops real well because I worked with their staffing. I worked with their, if somebody wanted a desk audit to be upgraded, I was the guy you have to come to to make those things happen. And I became pretty efficient at that, more efficient than I thought I could. I was kind of shocked myself, but that was very rewarding to be able to upgrade people in a position that they deserve to be upgraded in, to make that happen.
Excellent.
Except in my own position, I never was able to make that happen.
How about one of the funniest things that you've witnessed through your whole career? Is there anything that stands out more than others?
Funniest?
See, this gives Ed a chance to think.
Yeah, when I had retired, I had selected. It took me 3 seconds to select Fast Eddie to be my MC, and it wasn't so much funny as it was just a great time, and people like Tom Lean and those folks made it. There was probably, I don't know, 300 people at my retirement. My bar bill was at that time over $1,500.
Yep.
I mean, it gets big, and having Fast Eddie as my MC, it just, I wish I could have retired several times. It was just a great thing. I really enjoyed it.
What year was that?
That was 2010. In fact, I wasn't going to have one. And then Wayne Shanks and Tom Lean talked me into having it.
I want to hear what they told you, because I've heard this from a bunch of other people. I wonder if they told you the same thing to convince you. What was that?
Well, they said, you're going to regret not having one, is what it was. You're going to regret and you're going to enjoy it. Because I figured in my military mind I'd made enough enemies. I didn't want to have that show up at my retirement party. So I didn't really want to have a party.
If anybody has class, that doesn't show up at a retirement party, but I guess you had a little concern.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous about that. And I'm the type of guy, even though I've got kind of a big mouth, I tend to be more reserved, and I didn't figure I was entitled to something like this.
See, the rest of that is what I've heard through a bunch of people is, even if you don't want it, it's not necessarily for you. It's friends and family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they appreciate it.
If, we always told them too, okay, you don't get a full-blown party, whatever it is, at least have cake and coffee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have an open house so people can come by and see you.
Yep.
Because, there was a few people that just got up and left. You know, they were wired to the pissed off position and they just left. And I'm, like he just said, I'm sure that you're probably going to regret it, but hey, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, at least give the people that you work with a chance to come by and say hi, congratulations, good luck.
Yeah.
It was fun working with you. You know,
It gives you a chance to look back at your career because they're going to read that off.
Yeah.
You know, from the notes that you have given them and the pictures you have given them. It was interesting, but the funniest thing about that was it went from, well, they took a collection from the technicians, and everybody was to give 50 cents. And so I ended up getting this Holy Joe envelope full of quarters.
Oh, man.
and dollar bills. Yep.
Yeah, and it turned out to be about $200. Well, that was just a down payment on my bar bill. I had no idea that was.
Yeah, it's about $1 a person for the full-time personnel.
Yeah. Well, it got raised.
And
I mean, but
Some would give 10 and some would give 50 cents.
Yeah. I had this Holy Joe just full of quarters, so I was checking them over to see if any of them were dated before 1965 because those were worth some money.
There you go. Well, you taught me something more about that as well. I'm sure you don't remember, but about the people who didn't want a retirement thing or even a 1 hour thing in the DFAC, which back then we didn't call it the DFAC, not really till we started going to Iraq. The Chow Hall. Like the Chow Hall and the motor pool and all that. But I remember talking with you once at the club, and you're like, these people have to really realize that they can at least, even if nothing else, do this to get everybody an hour off work. So whether they come talk to you or not, you can get an hour off work in commemoration for a person that served. You know,
and of course, now that's gone by the wayside, but it was one of those things, you just,
Well, I'm glad I did it because it was a huge crowd, more than I expected. And that made it all worthwhile for me. And then to have Tom Lean and Russ Walls, who I play a lot of basketball with, and RJ to come up and say nice things about me, which I don't know if they were true or not, but they were very nice. And I appreciated that.
For sure.
To have that kind of quality person come up and speak on your behalf.
And it's good for the family.
Yeah, it's good for the family. Because they have no idea.
They know a few of people, but,
they know some of the terminology, but they don't understand all of it. And they get a whole hour full of that and find out what you really are worth out there because, like I said, you get a big crowd. I'm not complaining about the bar bill. It's just that, 16 years later, I still remember how big that thing was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's a fond memory.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
How about your one of your funny things that comes to mind?
There's just so darn many.
Yeah.
But it's just to piggyback on the retirement parties, because we could make people laugh. We could make people cry. We could make people laugh at themselves. It was just a fun time, and yet, you had your obviously the history, the fun time, and you had the serious stuff, the families. It was just awesome doing that, and then obviously talking to people to get stories. It just made my heart feel good.
I loved the PowerPoints put to music, the photos from way back up through.
Yeah, that worked good, and then we got them to go to the special songs, and and it was not only your military career, but it was your family and your friends. It just that. And it was when we had a successful retirement party, which 99% of them were that way.
Yeah,
it just you were happy.
Well, and they kept things clean because your family was there. As clean as they could, and that was just a special time. I wish I could retire every week from the Air Guard. It was just a delightful time.
Well, that's why we keep getting together.
Yeah.
And then, the Christmas parties back in the day.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Were just fun. And it involved everybody, and it was just, everybody got to have fun. And some of those people, you hadn't seen them for a while either because, they work in ammo, they work in CE, and, but everybody comes together for a couple hours on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Some people got together at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, why
and
not?
started too. But
Why wouldn't you?
But it was fun, there again. And then everybody, took care of each other, and we just had fun because you could, just kind of laugh at yourself and laugh with everybody else, and you were family.
Well, we're one of the last of the great Mohicans because they don't do this anymore.
Right.
And
right.
We're an unfortunate set of events, but that retirement thing was great.
Nothing ever stays the same. The only thing constant has changed. But one of my favorite stories on Christmas party was, if things happen through the year, it was brought up then, but we were all able to laugh about it and stuff. Hopefully nobody got
Or
offended.
they'd say, now we're going to save that for the Christmas party.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And my favorite one, I won't say his name, but had to go to Rapid or somewhere with the big safety truck with somebody, but things had gotten delayed, so they got to get there. So they were speeding to get there. I don't know, maybe it was like 90 or something like that. But they got stopped and pulled over, and the HP didn't give him just gave him a warning or whatever. But when he walked away, he looked at said 114th Fighter Wing safety truck. He says, could be a little bad advertising there, maybe. And then he went back to his truck, and off they went. I love that one.
Might have been part of one of them once too, coming back from
might
Pier. And then we were part of one going to Fargo one time for the fuel shop, and we had the safety truck, and we had to put miles on it.
Yep, that's why.
So we're heading for Fargo, and Larry Mortensen's driving. And we're just tooling down the road, and of course the speedometer only says 70 miles an hour. Well, he's got it floored. Of course, then we're passing people, we're turning on the yellow lights and whatever. Well, eventually,
a little additive.
Yeah, pulls us over, and, we're just beside ourselves because, we weren't drinking. It was only said 70, 75 miles an hour, He said, well, you were going over 90. And I go, can't be, so, Larry wasn't that lucky, so he got a ticket. And so we watched it the rest of the way. And then, of course, after we turned the truck off, turned it back on, then whatever happened reset. So when we brought it back to the motor pool, trying to figure out if there was something wrong, I ain't got nothing wrong here.
Just fine.
Yeah. But maybe you should have guessed since you were passing everything on the highway. And then when we were coming back from Pier that time, we were just chit-chatting and whatever, and I wasn't paying attention. Well, that was when it was 75, and I was going 85, and we were heading for Al's Oasis,
Yep.
and got me about 5 miles west.
Chocolate pie.
This one probably doesn't overlap, but what was the time you felt the most adrenaline pumping through your veins?
Oh, boy.
So it doesn't overlap with that story. That's what I'm hearing.
No. 'Cause, that's...
You've had more adrenaline than that.
That's part of the deal. I respect law enforcement. I respect people with authority. It's not a problem. You just go with the flow because you obviously screwed up. So you just, I just cannot believe people, don't respect, your superiors, your, different things, because that's the way I was brought up. So it, you get a little, what's going to happen, whatever, but probably the adrenaline pumping, boy, well, I could tell you a story about Panama, but I don't know if you should or not.
Oh, that's fine. We can pass that.
Well, and it's actually not bad, but we were in Panama. Of course, we're downtown having fun. We're at the Ancon Inn, whatever.
Yeah.
And but unbeknownst to me, they have like a casino upstairs. So we're drinking, partying, blah, 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 whatever. And, of course, I'm mingling with the locals, and I'm having fun. And I look around, and pretty soon there ain't nobody there but me. So, of course, I get outside, and I'm looking to the left and looking to the right, and I know where I'm not supposed to go.
Uh-huh.
So then I hook up with this guy, and I go, gee, my friends were just here and I think they went to another bar. Which way should I go? And he goes, well, I think they went to the right. And I said, well, what's to the right? And I said, well, there's a place called the Relax Bar or something. You know, and maybe half full, probably. And all right, let's go. So we get down to the end of the block, and then we look off into the distance, and there's the Relax Bar. Well, that's like another 6 blocks away. So I'm going, no. Well, it's about dark now.
Yep.
So we go down the block, and I said, no, just take me back to the Ancon, and I'll buy you all you want to drink, whatever. Just take me back there. So we start down this back alley. People from the shadows are talking to us and whatever, and then we went into this, I think it was a Paris club or one of them, just dark, nothing but a string of lights, and I go, no, we're not even close. They would not do this to me. So of course we get up almost to the street, and of course then the guy wants to sell me some drugs and whatever, and then I go, oh shit, I've had it now, because all these people that have been talking to me and whatever, American, you know, probably got some money. So we get out to the corner, to the street, and the lights come on, and I recognize where we're at. The Ancon Inn is only a half a block away.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's nothing job related or whatever, but it was after hours, my own fault. But that's probably the first time in my life I thought I was a goner.
Yep. Doesn't have to be job related for sure
I
for
was
these
gonna
stories.
get beat up and whatever, and of course,
Man.
you know, but he got me back to the door, bought him a couple of drinks.
All is good.
They wouldn't even let him come in the door.
Oh, really?
Because I found him on the street. Of course, by that time, Buck and everybody else has been to the casino and lost all their money, back downstairs drinking, wondering where in the hell I'm at. So you can either put that in or you can edit it or whatever.
Oh,
But
no, that's a great story.
But that's probably the worst time I ever had, where I felt like, because I'm all by myself in a strange area and in a really not so good part of town. So.
Right. How about you, Jim?
I think one of the most, well, for me, memorable was I was in Gary Bach, God rest his soul, helped me put together a package, and I was selected as the second person from the unit to go to the senior NCO Academy down in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was down there, and that was intense, because these are guys from all over the world, Air Force guys. I mean, from Japan, from Korea, from Italy, all over the place. And there was 48 of us. And fortunately, the Air Guard had 2 slots, and I got one of them. And it was quite an honor for me to be there. But what was really stressing me out was the final test, because we'd already lost probably 10 people from failure. And I don't think I was in jeopardy, but just in case I was, and I'm a nervous test taker anyway. Oh my God, I was so nervous. Took the test, went out in the hallway, and now you're waiting for the results to post. And everybody gets to watch your name and your score.
Oh, man.
Oh, it was stressful. And mine was good. And I was so grateful that I never sweat so hard through my armpits, my hands, everything. It was just, God, what a mess.
Paper starts curling up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was another time Tom Lean came to my defense. The commander of the palace, that's what I called the position, couldn't decide who to send down to my graduation, so he determined that he would send nobody. And so I was the only guy down there without any representation. And I thought, well, it figures. So I just kept it to myself. Well, the commandant from the academy got a hold of the base commander, which was Tom Lean. Oh, he was so put off by that. And the palace commander got his butt handed to him, already chewed up. And suffices to say, nobody went through any kind of a graduation ever again without some representation from the base. And that, again, was a Tom Lean thing, which...
And sometimes that led to an F-16 ride for some people, too.
Yeah.
Because they got to go in the back seat with the pilot or commander.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always cool when we got to see people take off that way. So,
Well, that time I came over to see you to get checked out for my ride.
yeah. Was I the guy that actually trained you? Mm-hmm. Cool.
And what happened was the two-seater went on Blake Johnson took it to, God, I think Vermont maybe, and it broke. So the day I was supposed to go, couldn't go because it wasn't back yet. So I had to wait again, and then because so many days had passed, I had to be rechecked out by you.
Right.
It was all ready to go. We were going to go to Rapid City. We were going to do a meet and greet with HR people there. Blake was taking me, and we're on our way, walking out to the jet, and we get called back. Evidently, somebody had discovered, and I know who it was, that's 2 rides because you're going to land, and you can't just get back on. You have to be checked out again.
That was later in my career that started surfacing.
Oh God! So
72 hours, once up, once down,
Yeah.
full retrain again if
full
you did that.
retrain, and we weren't going to be there but 72 hours, and we didn't have any connection with the Ellsworth life support shop. So my only chance for a ride got postponed again. So I'm still waiting for my ride in case. You know.
Oh man, you must have got hit right when that was surfacing. The people started getting called out during inspections and things and all that, and it got very particular. So
Yeah, I was
sorry about that.
Yeah, I was ready to go, and I had met all the requirements and checked out with you, and I was pretty excited. You know, that was going to be the pinnacle of my life, going up in an F-16, especially cross country, cross state. And, I was looking forward to being kind of a big shot coming out of the plane and meeting all the HR people that were Army, and I thought this is a good chance for me to really stick their nose in it. But unfortunately, because of the 72-hour rule, it was not to be.
Yeah. Yep. Based on that, you ready for another one? I need a little break.
I need a break.
Okay, you bet. We'll be back.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right. Gotta have a little.
He's got
That is good stuff.
It is good
Much
stuff.
better than I thought it was going to be. All right, we're back. I'll edit that in. Okay, got a few questions here for you, not necessarily military based. And if something comes to mind, we can always go back and just, if anything comes to mind, just talk about
All right.
All right, I'll start with you, Ed. What could you give a TED talk on right now with zero preparation?
Okay, get up a what?
A TED talk. Have you heard of that? They're YouTube videos where people have experiences or something, and then they're not, normally public speakers, but they get an opportunity to go up on stage and talk about something. Have you heard of TED Talks?
I haven't, but
okay.
it makes sense.
Well, it's the, since he kind of got me involved with this ALS thing, and then I had to go give a speech one time too, because I was president of the Enlisted Association, and kind of throw something at these young people, So I mean, it just it's kind of one of those things that when you're in a group and whatever it is, it's not necessarily your aptitude, but it's your attitude that determines your altitude. In other words, if you got a good attitude, and you can go after things, and don't try to fight it, go with the flow, do the best you can, and just let the chips roll, and then 9 times out of 10, it'll take care of itself. So I mean, if you really want to achieve something, give it your all. Yeah, you're going to have some ups and some downs, but pursue your dreams, go for it, and then don't be afraid to get some advice from other people. Get some help. I mean, it's just natural. I mean, you don't know everything, but in order to achieve your goals, 9 times out of 10, you have to include somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
And but and be yourself. There's no reason to change anything. Because you are you, and you obviously got a goal in mind, so you do what you have to achieve it. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, you're going to meet some really good people. You're going to look back on the things you did, and laugh sometimes, and then otherwise you're going to remember that advice. You're going to remember what you did, and then you can hopefully pass it on to the next person.
Yeah, that's why I interpreted that was kind of a life advice theme.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
So I mean, if I had to, talk to a young person or whatever, that's what I would tell them. Even an older person too, that's going through a lifestyle change or a career change or something like that. Just, don't fight it. Just go with it. Do the best you can, and take advantage of anything that comes by, whether it's advice, opportunities, or, anything. Just go with the flow.
Open mic. Stand up there. What would you talk about?
Well, I'm far and away not a public speaker. However, I'm not afraid of public speaking, although not very good at it. But I have had the opportunity to sit on some boards of some nonprofits here in Sioux Falls, and I've really been able to enhance my public speaking in front of crowds of legislators and HMMs, high muckety mucks. And
I'd never heard that one before.
And so my advice, because I know I was taught this even at the senior academy, that public speaking, people fear that more than they do death itself, because it's such a traumatic, emotional event in your life. So I've learned some of the tools, some of the skills to get rid of that nervousness. Doesn't mean I'm any good at it. It just means I'm not afraid of it. And if I taught my son this when he was a little boy, and he turned out to be a great man. I said, whatever you do, communication is going to get you the furthest in life. Look somebody in the eye, mean what you say, shake their hand with authority, and look them right in the eye. And even if you don't know what you're talking about, they're going to think you do, because it's communication. That's what it's about.
Yep. Excellent.
It was, wasn't it?
It was great. How did you do that?
You got that down.
Wow.
All right, here's something. What's something you tried in your life that you will never do again?
Because life is full of experiences.
You're not talking about jumping out of a plane then?
No.
No?
No, and there's another thing now. Why jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
aircraft.
But would I skydive someday? Yeah, I might. But
Maybe tandem, or
yeah,
that's a safer way, I guess.
that's the safer way. Well, you got to do that first couple times anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've seen that one recently where the gal was skydiving and then that plane hit her chute.
Yes, I saw that yesterday. And she had it was the paragliding
paragliding
type
thing. And
parachute.
this guy comes by with a little air, said he didn't see her, and clipped her chute, and then the emergency chute got all tangled up, but she got it untangled.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
landed.
because it hit like I don't know if it had landing gear, if it was a 152 or something, and she had like a 360 camera or something. She looks back, and you could see the airplane, and she just looks back and like, bam, rips it off of her, spins her around, and she was able to cut away, pull the chute.
But
like,
then that emergency
oh, my
one was
word.
kind of screwed up. But then she got that because you're trained and got to get them untangled.
Oh, well, like we always used to say, you got the rest of your life to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Did you see the look on her face, though, right the last 1 second of that video?
Yeah.
She hits, and it's looking at her sideways, and her face was just like blank.
Yep,
like,
I'm
what
still alive and I
just
made it.
happened? Oh, man.
That would definitely be. I would never do that again.
You got anything topping your bucket list nowadays? How many years you been retired?
January 3rd, 2008. So
Eight,
that's
okay.
18 plus, you
Yeah.
know, and love to travel. You know, just got back from Hawaii, been to Europe, been to Cabo. You know, next thing we're going to still try to do is Alaska. Maybe it's, you know, see the last frontier up there would be still on the bucket list.
Take some time.
Just kind of want to just see a lot of this country.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's obviously Hawaii was on the bucket list, got that done. Europe has been there, done that too. So just kind of go around the United States of America 'cause there's a lot of places to see, a lot of history, a lot of nice people to meet. So
Well, we're
Just-
right in the middle of the U.S. You can hop in your car and drive for 12 hours. You can get anywhere from northern Wisconsin, Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas, Denver, Billings. So a second long day of driving kind of gets you
get you to
all
the coast.
across the U.S.
Get you to the coast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I love doing that part. And
So yeah, the bucket list would just continue, you know, travel and enjoy life and as long as you can.
nice. How about you, Jim?
I would say I just ran into the best job ever, and that's I'm a grandfather of 2 kids now, and a $1 million family. I got a boy and a girl, and you know, I've heard before people really enjoy being a grandparent, but since now I get to experience it, it is just I just can't believe it, you know, and I never would have guessed that I could be wrapped around a little girl's finger like I am and darn proud of it too.
Yep. Wear it like a badge, just like you said earlier.
Yep. Yeah. It's, you know, I had no idea. And in fact, when I thought about it, when I learned I was going to be a grandfather, I thought this is going to be stressful. This can't be any fun. Boy, what a blast. What a great, rewarding job it is.
How old is she?
She is 4.5. And they just had a little boy 2 months ago. So they got the boy and a girl, $1 million family. Little baby smiles at me, and that I'm going to go broke, which is fine because there's no better way of doing it
Absolutely.
than taking care of grandkids.
So they're fairly local?
Yeah, they're in Sioux Falls. My son is a police sergeant with the Sioux Falls Police Department.
Oh, nice.
And his wife is the daughter of Gil Sharp, who used to be a crew chief, and she's a speech pathologist at the VA. So they live here in town. We co-grandparent with Gil and Susan. It's great.
That's cool.
You never get the burnout because you're sharing it with them, and great people, really great people. Even if they don't see this podcast, really great people.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah, my youngest daughter is a speech language pathologist now, and the oldest one's lived in Alaska for 10 years, and the younger one is there now. So the Alaska one, I said, take some time. We've been going up there twice a year for like 10 years, but most of the time we're there playing with grandkids.
Yeah.
You know, I went salmon fishing one time in 10 years. It was great, but I lean towards the living room
I
and
get
the
on the
kids.
floor. I can't believe that because there's no way I could get on the floor and get up, but I do. And it's oh man, it's cool. I love it.
Well, 8 grandkids, 8 great grandkids.
Oh my word!
Because of Bonnie's daughter,
Sure.
my daughter too, married
Your
into a
daughter,
family. You know, so I mean, they started reproducing at a young age, so it's fine.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's a great job.
Talk to you about your Alaska adventure because she doesn't want to do the boat, but she wants to fly in and do the whatever and fly out. So
There is a book. My son-in-law sent us one immediately after they got married, and it's a book about this thick. And I gave it to a friend that was going to go. I don't think she's gone on that trip yet. Travel Miles or Milescape or something like that. But it will give you so much information on Alaska.
I have to hook up because that
yeah.
could be on the docket for next year.
Yeah, very cool. Here's another travel question. We'll go with you first.
Okay.
If you could time travel to one decade, What would it be?
Oh, it'd be the 70s.
Straight in.
Yeah, 70s. The music was great. My friends, not that they're not great now, but I didn't realize what great friends I was having at that time. Went to rock concerts when music was music.
Cars were cars.
Cars were cars. I had a 72 Nova with the wide tires and the chrome wheels and the louver on the front, and it was the 70s. No doubt in my military mind, the 70s. Yeah.
Okay.
And if I knew what I knew now, living in the 70s, me and Warren Buffett, we'd be best friends.
Yeah. Okay, the second half. What decade that you haven't lived, what would you go to?
That I haven't lived?
Yeah.
I would love to go back in time to either the roaring 20s or the dirty 30s. My parents taught me a lot about the way they were raised and what they had to go through. And I even liked the style of clothing they wore back in those days. Mm-hmm. So it would be the roaring 20s or the dirty 30s, just to get a feel for what they went through and how I could be more appreciative of where we are today. Because like when I talk to my son, he can't believe I would come home from New Mexico with no credit card, no cell phone, just cash for gas, and a car with no air conditioning, my 72 Nova. So, people, when they look back at how you lived, are amazed. And so I'm amazed by my parents and my in-laws, the life that they had and how hard they had to work to get where they were before they passed.
There's a book that I just read. It was about this thick, and it's a company that goes to a section of a state, and it takes years to put it out. And they contact a bunch of the older people in, say, 15-town radius, 20-town radius, and they ask them to write their story, no matter how short or no matter how long. And there were so many commonalities on how people lived and what they did. And stores were open on Saturdays way late because that's the only time people could come to town. And, the kids would have just this little bit of money, and they'd either get popcorn or go to a movie. Sometimes both, but not always. The outhouse thing, all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, they can't believe that.
And, yeah, that was just, and some of it was repetitive because it was so much the same, but you hit those golden stories in between there that go with the theme you're talking about there, which is really cool.
Well, and nowadays, if you give somebody a compliment that they're built like a brick shit house, well, that must be an insult. No, it's because the outhouses back then were old, wallpaper type wood.
The wind would take it down while you're in it.
Yeah. And Sears and Roebuck meant something to you in there.
They talked about that a lot, and what they liked the best with outhouses was the summertime, because they would get these boxes of peaches and they had nice soft paper between every layer, and that was their deal.
Yeah.
And they would make their dresses out of the flour sacks and seed sacks. Well, and you would actually shop for the seed, all the same brand, but for the pattern of the bag it was in. And the next thing you know, your daughter's wearing a dress with that next year.
Well, what I like to tell people is when I grew up, I had a president that got assassinated. Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Martin Luther King, which they all had a K in their name, was assassinated. Had the Vietnam War, had the gas shortages, had it all, and lived through it to be able to stand tall and say, made it through that reign. But that was a lot to go through for somebody that's, closing on 70. That's an awful lot.
Right. Yeah, two-part question for you. A decade you've lived, and then a decade that you didn't live. What would you go back to?
Can I just say ditto? I mean, the
70s
were good. And my dad passed away in 76, so that's the only bump in the road there. But, after I got out of high school, got to work and then, joined the Guard, the 70s were good because that's never did, much in school or something, because I wasn't much of an athlete, never did any partying or never chased women or whatever. But in 70s, then I did blossom a little bit and really enjoyed the 70s.
Nice.
And then that's when I had got my cars and had a 72 Nova.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Keystone Classics or?
It was a Rally Nova back then
Mine
with
was
a
a Rally
3-speed
Nova.
on the floor.
Nice.
And
350.
that was, that was good times, because I went to college and got to experience that. Got married. The only bad thing was my dad passed away, but it was fine. And then started having a family, so that was some good times there. And then if you would go way back, it would be fun to go back to the time when your parents were growing up, because you heard a lot of stories.
Yep.
And they obviously worked hard, but they played hard too. And but to your grandma and your everybody that the times they went through and how they survived on little or nothing, and but they made it work. And it would just be interesting to see how they, put that all together, because there's, like you said, roaring 20s, dirty 30s. Yeah, it's kind of when you travel around the country and then you see the artifacts from those times, and you see all the pictures and stuff. I mean, it's
Well, it was like
pretty cool. And
to me, it's a lot like the starving kids of India. They don't know they're starving because they've never had a full belly.
Right.
Well, as a kid that grew up, I was born in the 50s, and then got to experience the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and so on and so forth. You don't realize what you've got, really, because you haven't been exposed to it all. And I wouldn't trade my life for anything. And I just wonder if the reason that I'm in the body I'm in is because somebody else couldn't possibly, and I'm a twin, and he couldn't keep up with me. So, interesting time.
Yes, there's a country song. It's not having what you want, but wanting what you have.
Yeah.
Contentment is the key
Yep.
there. If
Yep.
you can find contentment in your life,
well, you make the best of what you have.
exactly.
You make it work.
Well,
Yeah.
to piggyback on a country western line, there's a song. I listen to the country station 58 on Sirius XM, and there's a song out there in the 90s, and it's by Randy Travis, and he says, "My phone still isn't ringing, so I'm imagining it's still you, or still not you."
Yeah, it's not ringing. It's soon
Still
it's
not
not you.
you.
I
Yeah.
love that song.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I had something else in my brain and I just lost it, but that was great. I love the blast from. Oh yeah, yeah. So if you could pick a decade, it'd be like, for your answer, 1925 to 35, because you could see the transition from the
That
prosperity
would be, yeah,
down
could
to
be,
the
like a little of the good times and then a little of the bad times, just to see how things, work. Because I mean, you hear all the stories and see pictures, but
Well, when I was raised, you got to work smart as opposed to hard. Hard isn't a bad thing to do, but smart works much better.
yeah, especially the older we get.
Oh,
yeah, work smarter, not harder. There you go.
I had to move an entire hay pile out here, but I took 3 days to do it because I just, worked for an hour. Okay, tomorrow I'll do that again for an hour, not too much. That's for sure. Now we kind of touched on some of these answers, but you may want to either repeat or add or whatever. But we've talked about your family, kids, grandkids. There's going to be greats and great-greats that you'll never see.
right.
And who knows? And I offer digital copies of these to everybody, so we don't have to depend on YouTube. If people want a digital copy, I'll get it to them. But let's just imagine that underneath that center camera there, you've got like 40 of your greats. What would you like to say to them?
I guess what I like to say is be a patriot. That'll serve you well in life. Love your country. Just know that I've been to several of them, and the soil here in the United States is second to nothing. It's a great country. Remember your patriotism. Remember your loyalty, and just be the best person that you can be, because that's probably pretty outstanding, especially if your lineage is part of me.
There you go. Nice. I like that. How about you, Fast Eddie?
Similar thing there too, because you live in the greatest country in the world, no doubt. All the traveling that I've done and we've done, it's always nice to come home, but this is the place where your heart is. You need to take care of your family, love your family, be kind to your friends. Just treat other people as you would want them to treat you, like the good book says.
Yeah.
I mean, that just you'll achieve so much more, and take advantage of opportunities.
And be generous, because you can't take it with you.
And be kind. And like Tim McCraw, be humble, be kind.
Yeah.
It'll get you a lot farther than if you try to think you know it all or whatever. Just kind of go with the flow and live life to the fullest and learn and enjoy. And but there again, communication, family, friends, you need them.
Yep.
You got to have it. It's because you're not in this world alone. There's other people, and you can help people. They can help you. So, just kind of take advantage of the opportunities.
Nice. And another part of our transition is things have changed out at the Guard, but the young people that are there now, this is their good old days.
Yeah.
So we're going to be careful with them, let them enjoy that. And
and they've heard of us.
yeah.
They know of us, and and it's complimentary. It's not. We were a bunch of misfits. We were top of the line, grade A people out there, and we have the trophies and such to show for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they know of us, but they got to carve their own.
Yep. You got to make your own little niche in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is there anything come to mind you guys would like to bring up at all?
I'd just like to say that I never realized this was going to happen, but my retirement years have been golden because of the Air Guard. I'm part of a bigger family than I had ever imagined, and the older you get, the more you hang on to these people, and they are full of such wisdom. You take the likes of Buck and these guys that's why I enjoy the safety meetings, is because you get to get some of the vintage out of these guys and gals. I mean, there's, and not to drop the ball and say, there's a lot of women that were pioneers out there too.
Yes, for sure.
And my hat's off to them too. And they make great friends too. And my wife enjoys not just my friends in Air Guard, but she's kind of envious because of the relationship that I get to carry on with these guys. I had no idea it was going to happen, but it did. And grateful. That'd be the word I'd use, is grateful.
Organic is best.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens.
Yeah, it just
You
happens.
realize it later.
Well, you could never plan this unless you're an engineer, and I'm not. So, I mean, it's been a great life.
Perfect.
And the caveat on that, just live, love, laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Just, and keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
The old KISS principle,
Yeah.
don't, sweat the small stuff, it's just move on.
Yep.
There's going to be bumps on the road, but just, as long as you take care of other people, they'll take care of you. And it's, that's what I mean. Just live, laugh, love.
Yeah, if you don't have some bumps, you're living in a cave then. Yeah. I mean,
You'll never get stronger.
Nope.
Because you learn from everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn every day. Even 73 years old, I'm still learning new stuff every day.
Yeah.
That's because I'm teaching them new stuff every day. As only I could.
Yeah, and we're really not supposed to just, even in our retirement years, we're not really supposed to just pursue comfort for the rest of our lives. So testing ourselves a little bit, like you guys were talking about earlier, do something new, get out of your box a little bit.
Well,
yeah, definitely.
If you're able, do it.
Yep.
It's fine.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on in. I hope I never pressured you too much, but I knew you were.
No, I was just trying to work in
Yeah.
a time or whatever it is, and then
It was funny
after
how
watching a couple of them, yeah, I'll get there, and then. But like,
At the last safety meeting I was at, that's what you and me.
Yeah.
When I didn't have any beer, just drinks.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Well, I was the same way. I don't
kinda.
drink beer. But you said, I wish I could get Eddie. I go, well, that's easy. Well, no, I can't get him. Well, I'll go get him. Here we are, folks.
Because I asked you, I said, you want to do one on your own or with a partner? And you mentioned Fast Eddie. I'm like, okay. I said, well, you ask him if he wants to.
Give me
That's
some
fine.
dates. I'll try to work it in, and
Yep.
we came up with this date, and it worked out just fine.
You bet. Well, thanks again, you guys, and thank you for your service also. Greatly appreciate it.
You bet.
Great knowing you, Jimbo. Yep.
You guys too, and I'm going to
It's
try to
always
make
fun
more
with
meetings.
working with good people like yourself. Because that's you were always a people person too, and took care of things, and that's what we need.
Well, I appreciate that, and part of that is in the hog house here. We'll get it announced officially, but the day before the anniversary of Murdoch's passing, we're gonna have a hog house time, and it's nice weather, fire outside, and we'll be making it last more than 2 hours.
Good.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys, and thanks for watching.
Over and out. Good night.
Yep.
Good afternoon. Whatever.
Afternoon.
Yep.